Since coming to London, many times, people have been stunned when I or other Colombians say, we don't want to do cocaine. People are even more stunned when we say, I haven't even tried it. And believe me, we understand the surprise, coming from Colombia, producing country, right? But you see, for us, it's definitely not a socially acceptable thing. You're not the cool guy for doing cocaine. And I want to tell you a little bit about why. By the end, I just hope you get to see why reducing consumption for us really matters. So, if you didn't know, cocaine was first synthesized in the 1860s in Europe. It quickly became ubiquitous in everyday products. People have heard that Coca-Cola used to contain cocaine or coca leaf. Not many people know that the first commercially available product was wine, laced with cocaine, and that it was consumed out of all places, the Vatican City. So talk about socially acceptable. In any case, by the 1910s, 1920s, most governments started to ban cocaine because of the effects of addiction in the population. And the Second World War really crushed demand that would recover gradually over the next few decades. Now, it was in the 1970s that cocaine first arrived and started flooding my country. It enabled Pablo Escobar to become the richest man in the world, as some of you might know. Now, Pablo today is arguably better known because of the show Narcos, I would say. You see, in my view, the show really undermines that Pablo and his peers were responsible for killing over 40,000 people back home. And they did this by targeting, sure, political elites and business moguls, but also civilian population. They would place car bombs in shopping malls and in public spaces just to drive chaos and some political agenda. Now, the show arguably has turned Pablo into a bit of a pop culture icon. Slick dialogue, meme-worthy moments. For us, Pablo is more comparable to a Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter. We don't say his name. His shadow haunts us and our reputation worldwide to this day, 30 years later. So much so that there currently is a bill in Congress trying to completely ban the sale of any memorabilia of Pablo and or his peers countrywide. I hope that shows you a little bit how much the country actually doesn't like him. In any case, since the 70s, there's always been someone controlling the cocaine flow in Colombia. M19, Medellin cartel, FARC, you can name them. They all differ in ideology, political agenda, geographical distribution and control, background. Some were founded by farmers, some were founded by students. But they all share one thing. Cocaine has been the main funding source for their operations. And the government has taken many approaches over the decades to deal with these groups. We have declared and gone to war with some of them. We have signed peace agreements. We have even signed a new constitution to reincorporate them into society. But you see, it's such a lucrative business that the moment you take one group out, there's another ready to jump onto the power vacuum. And the constant struggle between government, militias, cartels, has affected many more people than most realize. In the last 2 years, we have experienced a bit of a flare-up in violence in my country. There's been 13,000 people killed, 90,000 people forcefully displaced from their lands. That's to take over and plant coca leaf. This is equivalent to 20 people killed and 120 people displaced every day. And the number of coca leaf plantations has reached a 2-decade high in the country right now. Now, to give you some sense of dimension, Colombia's landmass is about the size of Portugal, Spain, and France combined, more or less. over the last 40 years, about 15% of my country's population has been forcefully displaced from their land. That's territory about the size of Portugal, and I hope that gives you a sense of scale. In addition to the numbers you see on the screen, there's been 50,000 people kidnapped. Me and my family, we've been very lucky. But I know tons of people back home who've had their close relatives or friends driving around the country, stopped in the middle of the road, taken into the forest, not to be seen again for a decade, in some cases, never. Now, preparing for this, people kept asking me, would Colombia's economy crash if you take away the cocaine industry? Fair question. Short answer is no. Estimates point to anywhere between $1 and $15 billion coming into the country every year. That sounds like a lot of money. But in Colombia, that's about 3% or under 3% of the country's GDP. I would argue that's a very small number in comparison to the human cost. Now, if I were in your shoes, I'd be asking myself, how can you fix this? And if you think about it, if you take away the market, you're cutting funding from these groups from further perpetuating the violence. And some might argue, legalize it, regulate it, sure. But you see, there are so many ramifications and impacts, and there's a reason it was banned in the first place. There's so many political agendas that it's really an unfeasible solution right now, especially in a world with rising conservatism like we have today. So how about we take a look at supply and go to the source? You see, most farmers who already live scared for their lives make a living out of the tiny plot of land they have access to. There's 200,000 families planting cocaine, 250,000 hectares planted. That's about a hectare per family. That's not lavish living. And these families regularly ponder whether you should plant regular produce, say pineapple, where they face large requirements of labor for planting, harvesting, and so on. They face terrible road infrastructure to commercialize their products. They face, obviously, market rate fluctuations and spoilage risks, many times making a loss, like any other farmer, I guess. But alternatively, they can plant coca leaf. Transportation for these people is just easier because output is generally a few kilograms of powder that fit into a backpack, and you're a short ride away to the local drug lord who is going to be or give you a more stable income. So I really just genuinely wonder how many of you would choose the latter option. In any case, we've had many decades of, or many initiatives over the decades, government and non-government, trying to crack down on production. These, you see, in a poor country, there's just simply always someone else willing to produce it. And by cracking down on production, you're really just crushing families and people with little alternative. And so if not production, how about we look at distribution? Out of the question. And here's why. These gangs are willing to smuggle no matter what. They hide cocaine tied to or inside a person. Shipping containers have proven much more scalable. They've learned to lace everyday objects, even clothing, with cocaine. What's even worse, they have semi or fully submersible vehicles capable of carrying multiple tons and diving for thousands of miles. And nobody knows how many there are out there. So bottom line, entities and initiatives trying to crack down on distribution have really just not kept pace with the resiliency, innovation, and resourcefulness from these groups. And now, if not production, if not distribution, how about consumption? You see, worldwide consumption is at an all-time high and on the rise. Africa, Middle East, South and Southeast Asia are considered to be target markets for these groups. Most geographies have some sort of punitive approach to consumption. And when you look at reports out there, UN and others, findings suggest there's little to no effect from these measures. Now, when you look at prevention, initiatives out there really just focus on educating around addiction, health risks, impact on family. But I've realized the awareness of the larger impact from consumption is not commonly covered, and people in general just don't know. So I have a message for you. We must end the horrific violence in my country. Fully controlling supply is impossible. Legalization won't come anytime soon, regardless of whether it would help or not. Controlling distribution is inefficient. And since the awareness of the impact of every line consumed is so poorly known, I would like you to remember these numbers. 55 people have been killed and over 500 people have been forced off their land for the last 40 years in my country. This has to stop. Please help me spread the word. Thank you.